Welcome to the Anti-Trafficking Response Academy by International Rescue Committee. In this short video, we will explore forced begging, one of the most visible forms of human trafficking, where victims are exploited openly in plain sight. Yet it is a deeply neglected social issue. Forced begging occurs when a person is compelled to beg against their will, and the trafficker takes the money they are forced to collect. In this video, we will explore what forced begging is and how it is defined, the global scale of this issue, the most common characteristics of this type of trafficking, and emerging trends. Forced begging is a form of human trafficking in which individuals, often children or people with disabilities, are coerced, deceived, or forced to beg in public. The money collected is taken by traffickers, leaving victims with little to no control over their earnings. Forced begging exploits vulnerability and is internationally recognized as a form of human trafficking and a serious human rights violation. The legality of begging, or panhandling, differs greatly from one place to another. In many areas, begging on its own is not a crime. However, forcing someone to beg is illegal. In many countries, it can be prosecuted as human trafficking, as it involves exploitation similar to forced labor, but this is not applied consistently everywhere. Even though forced begging is a recognized form of trafficking, research shows that many victims go unidentified, and some are even prosecuted instead of protected. Forced begging happens all over the world. No country is free from this issue. It takes place both within countries and across borders. According to UNODC data from 2024, about 1% of all identified trafficking victims were exploited through forced begging. Globally, it is estimated that traffickers can earn $10,000, $40,000 a year in illegal profits from forced begging. Children are particularly vulnerable to forced begging because they depend on caregivers for food, shelter, and protection. Exploiters, often family members, take advantage of this dependence, targeting children whose appearance elicits sympathy and higher donations. Those most at risk include children with disabilities, very young children, often under 10, children from impoverished or marginalized communities, and children who have dropped out of school or are in conflict with the law. In some contexts, children are also expected to contribute to household income, which traffickers exploit to justify forcing them to beg. People with disabilities are often physically or socially vulnerable, depend on others for care, and can be exploited because traffickers know their visible disabilities can generate sympathy and money. Older people, especially those with disabilities, face additional risks due to frailty, social isolation, reduced mobility, and limited legal protections or support networks. Migrants from impoverished backgrounds are also highly at risk, as limited resources, lack of legal status, and the unfamiliarity with local systems make them particularly susceptible to exploitation. The phenomenon known as ethnicized tunnel vision, characterized by an exclusive focus on one ethnic group, such as Roma people, for example, to the exclusion of others at risk, should be avoided in both analysis and response. Risk factors such as poverty, exposure to violence, marginalization, forced migration backgrounds, or exclusion from education can increase vulnerability to forced begging, regardless of gender or ethnicity. Forced begging is sometimes connected to forced criminality. In some cases, victims are compelled not only to beg, but also to engage in criminal acts, including activities such as pickpocketing or petty theft. Traffickers often impose daily earning quotas, and victims who fail to meet these targets can be subject to punishment. Victims typically must hand over most or all of their earnings to traffickers, while enduring physical, psychological, and emotional abuse. Victims may be forced to carry out other activities, such as collecting iron and other raw materials from garbage sites, which traffickers then sell for profit, keeping all the earnings for themselves. Some people are deliberately injured, denied proper clothing, or chosen because of visible disabilities to generate more sympathy and money. Victims, including children, are made to work long hours, endure constant abuse, and face a high risk of sexual exploitation by both traffickers and the public. People, especially children, are sometimes forced to play instruments or perform tricks to attract donations. While some recruitment techniques resemble those used in other forms of human trafficking, forced begging shows several methods that are particularly characteristic of this form of abuse. Let's explore them together. In some cases, cultural norms or traditions are misused to justify exploitation. For example, in certain cases involving marginalized Roma communities, some victims may be socialized to believe that activities such as begging are a normal or accepted way of contributing to family income. Traffickers can exploit this perception to normalize exploitative practices. In some regions such as South Asia, children are kidnapped by criminal gangs, forced to beg, and sometimes even given addictive substances to make them dependent on their exploiters. People with physical or intellectual disabilities may be approached by traffickers in care institutions or shelters, promising better living conditions or jobs, and later force them into begging instead. Trafficking often occurs through people the victim already knows: friends, relatives, community members, or even teachers. For children, it is most common to be forced into begging by their own parents or family members. The same sometimes happens to older people, who are exploited by those they depend on. In many cases, parents themselves have a history of begging, continuing the cycle. In recent years, forced begging has evolved from traditional street activity to digital spaces, giving rise to what's now known as internet begging or e-begging. This shift, from the street to the screen, has opened new opportunities for traffickers and exploiters. A growing trend involves live stream begging, especially on platforms like TikTok or money pool websites, where people, including children and the elderly, appear on live streams asking for virtual gifts or money. Some of these performances are orchestrated by third parties who profit from the platform's built-in gift system. One study documented cases of elderly individuals being humiliated or infantilized in live videos to attract sympathy and virtual donations. In many cases, these videos were monetized by others, turning exploitation into profit. There is also evidence of forced child begging live streams, actively promoted by algorithms. Online platforms may take commissions of up to 70% from these transactions. In 2025, researchers found a growing evidence of live begging and related exploitative behavior. Nevertheless, experts suggest that it is important not to take a blanket approach to moderating online begging content, as this could penalize people genuinely seeking humanitarian support in crisis or conflict-affected areas. Although forced begging is a recognized form of trafficking, research shows that most victims remain unidentified, and many are even prosecuted. Raising awareness of this issue, along with its underlying social causes, is crucial to effectively combating this crime and to protect people. Anti-Trafficking Response Academy by the International Rescue Committee is committed to empowering you with the knowledge and tools to fight human trafficking. Explore more about the problem of human trafficking and anti-trafficking efforts through educational micro-sessions available on our website. Thank you for joining us in this crucial mission.